Breaking right now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle condemn Australians. But when normal Aussies said, "We don't want to pay a penny to have you there," the Sussexes weren't happy about it.
Voiceover script. 35,000 people. That's how many Australians signed a petition, a formal, official petition, saying they do not want a single dollar of taxpayer money spent on Harry and Meghan's upcoming visit to their country. 35,000 people took time out of their day to make their feelings known on record. And rather than doing what any competent PR team would advise, say nothing, let it fade, move on, the couple responded. They pushed back. They dismissed the people who signed it by pointing out how many Australians hadn't bothered. And just like that, a story that might have lasted one news cycle became a story about how they handle being told they aren't welcome. That response tells you almost everything you need to know about where Harry and Meghan are right now. But we're going deeper than that today, because this week gave us a lot to work with. We've got the $3,000 retreat, where even the host admits she wasn't excited until 3 weeks before the event. We've got body language footage from Jordan that is hard to watch once you know what you're looking for. We've got a brand expansion into the UK that is either panic, miscalculation, or both. And we've got a new satirical Amazon film in which Meghan plays herself, which raises questions about self-awareness that we are absolutely going to get into. Let's start in Australia, because this is where the story is most revealing. Harry and Meghan are planning a trip down under, and the backdrop is a petition organized by an advocacy group called Beyond Australia. The ask was simple. This is a private visit. Harry and Meghan should fund it themselves, and government officials should not contribute a single dollar. More than 35,000 people agreed. The couple's spokesperson responded by calling the petition a moot point because the trip is privately funded anyway. Fine, maybe that's technically accurate. But here's what that response completely misses. 35,000 people taking the time to formally register their opposition to your visit is not a moot point. It is a signal. It is the public communicating something loudly and clearly, and the only intelligent response is to hear it and say absolutely nothing. Instead, they responded. They drew attention to the size of the Australian population that hadn't signed, which means they took a manageable story and turned it into a story about their own thin-skinned reaction to being unwanted. So why Australia at all? Why now? The answer actually makes a certain kind of sense if you understand how they think. The last time they were there was 8 years ago, and the reception was extraordinary. The crowds were massive. The enthusiasm was real. People lined the streets. And I think that image, those huge adoring Australian crowds, has stayed embedded in their memory like a photograph that never got updated. They believe Australia loves them. They believe it's a safe harbor, a place where British press cynicism can't reach them, and American indifference hasn't set in. What they apparently did not do is any actual research into how Australian public opinion has shifted since then, because it has shifted dramatically. Poll after poll shows their popularity has collapsed. The warmth is gone. What's replaced it is, at best, indifference, and at worst, the kind of active hostility that produces 35,000 signature petitions. There's also a book, Valentine Lowe's Courtiers, that documented Meghan's behavior on that earlier Australian tour. According to the reporting, when she looked out at the crowds at Taronga Zoo, her reaction was essentially, "What is everyone here for? I don't understand. It's silly." And as people lined up to meet them, she was reportedly overheard saying she couldn't believe she wasn't getting paid for this. Now, of course, this time she is getting paid. $3,000 per person for what's being called the Her Best Life retreat. So let's talk about that. $3,000 per person to share a room in what is being described as an unfinished luxury hotel, to listen to Meghan speak. Now, if that sounds like a questionable value proposition to you, you are not alone. But what really caught my attention wasn't the price. It was an interview with the podcast host organizing the event. She was asked about the retreat on air, and she said essentially that she'd only just gotten excited about it, that she'd spent an entire day rewatching everything she'd ever seen about Meghan, taking notes, really getting into it, and that this breakthrough happened just over 3 weeks before the event. Before that, she said, she hadn't felt any excitement yet. Sit with that. The person organizing the event, presumably one of Meghan's biggest advocates, could not work up genuine enthusiasm for this thing until 3 weeks out. What does that say about the women who paid $3,000? What does it say about the substance behind the brand? I'll tell you what I think it says. I think it says that even among people broadly sympathetic to Meghan, there's a quiet recognition that the actual content is thin, that the excitement has to be manufactured, that you have to spend an entire day convincing yourself before you can announce that you're finally on board. The Australians who signed that petition just saved themselves $3,000 and a significant amount of disappointment. Now let's contrast all of this with William and Catherine, because the contrast this week was stark and impossible to ignore. The same week this Australian situation was unfolding, William and Catherine attended the ceremony for the new Archbishop of Canterbury. And what struck people watching the coverage was how genuinely comfortable they are together. There are clips of just 5 seconds of footage circulating online, and people were saying, "Isn't it sweet that they're so clearly best friends?" That's the word that keeps coming up. Genuine. The ease is real. The unity is obvious. These are two people who actually like each other, who are on the same team, who have built something solid together. Catherine is also in the middle of a style moment that is becoming quietly historic. She's becoming one of the great style icons of her generation, and she does it in a way that looks completely effortless. The day of the Archbishop ceremony, London was cold, windy, and genuinely unpleasant. She turned up in a hat, dealt with it gracefully, and looked incredible doing it. No drama, no complaint, just presence. If you're new here and these are the kinds of stories you want to follow properly, subscribe and hit the notification bell because we cover this every week and there's always more beneath the surface. Now let's talk body language, because this is where things get genuinely interesting. You can control your words. You can control what goes in a press release, what your spokesperson says, what your memoir chooses to emphasize. But your body is much harder to manage, especially in unguarded moments, especially when cameras catch you not quite expecting it. For years, there has been a well-documented pattern in how Meghan handles Harry in public. She places her hand on his arm or his thigh. She guides him physically. She positions him and repositions him. She speaks for him, saying things like, "What Harry means is," mid-sentence. And for a long time, Harry went along with all of it. He followed her lead. He deferred. But then came the footage from Jordan. And if you watch it knowing what to look for, it is striking. There are multiple moments where Harry evades her touch. Not dramatically, not in a scene, but physically. He pulls back slightly, moves away, doesn't lean in. The resistance is there, and it wasn't there before. Body language analysts who have followed this couple for years have noted the shift specifically. The dynamic that used to look like choreography now looks like friction, like two people no longer pulling in the same direction. Compare that to William and Catherine, where there's no management, no choreography, no one steering anyone anywhere. Just two people genuinely comfortable in each other's company, and it shows. I think what we're watching in real time is two very different trajectories. One couple that has built something real and lasting, and one couple under enormous pressure, possibly approaching a breaking point, struggling to maintain the appearance of the partnership their entire brand is built on. Because here's the thing, Harry and Meghan as a unit is the brand. The whole product, the entire reason Netflix wrote that check, is the two of them together. If that unit fractures, everything collapses. And the footage from Jordan suggests the fracture may already be underway. Drop in the comments what you think is actually happening between them right now. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious where you land on this. Now let's talk about the brand expansion, because Meghan has been filing trademarks in the United Kingdom. And the list is extraordinary. Candles, skincare, gardening tools, dog treats, clothing, books, audiobooks, online shows, TV shows, event planning, home decor, jewelry, stationery, tote bags, furniture, food products, yoga straps, pet feeding mats, bath and shower gels, podcasts, educational seminars. That is not a brand strategy. That is someone writing down every category of consumer product they've ever encountered and filing paperwork on all of it. It's the kind of list you get when the goal isn't coherent brand building. It's coverage. But here's what makes it genuinely fascinating. When you compare that list to what King Charles sells through his charitable ventures, his jams, his marmalades, his organic produce, the overlap is remarkable. Almost everything Charles sells, Meghan apparently wants to sell too. And the problem is that Charles's products have a real story. They come from his organic farms. The proceeds go to charity. They are authentically connected to who he is and what he has cared about for decades. In blind taste tests between the A's Everfruit spread and King Charles's jam, Charles wins because his actually tastes good and has genuine provenance. So what is actually going on? There are a few possibilities. One is a genuine attempt to build an international lifestyle brand with the UK as a market, in which case, this is a serious miscalculation. The UK is arguably the most hostile market in the world for Meghan right now. Competing directly with the king in the jam market is not a good look. The second possibility is defensive trademarking, filed to prevent competitors from launching as-ever alternatives in English-speaking markets. That's more plausible. But the third possibility, and the most interesting one, is that this is a response to panic. Reports suggest Netflix merchandise is sitting in warehouses, projects aren't materializing, and filing a trademark costs relatively little but generates press attention. It creates the impression of momentum, of expansion, of a plan, even if the plan itself remains unclear. And then there's the film. Close Personal Friends, an Amazon production with Lily Collins, Brie Larson, Henry Golding, and Jack Quaid. A satirical take on celebrity culture, and Meghan plays herself in it. Think about that for a moment. A person who has spent years publicly discussing the enormous pain caused by media scrutiny and the relentlessness of the spotlight has voluntarily stepped back into that spotlight in one of the most self-referential ways imaginable, playing herself, in a satire about celebrity culture. Now, sometimes leaning into the absurdity is exactly the right call. Sometimes the best way to reclaim a narrative is to get ahead of it. But that only works if you are genuinely in on the joke. If you have the self-awareness to understand what's being satirized. If you can be, at least partially, the butt of it. And the evidence that self-deprecating humor is a natural part of Meghan's toolkit is thin. She takes herself and her narrative very seriously. That's not necessarily a flaw, but it is in direct tension with what a successful satirical self-portrayal requires. What we did see was Jack Quaid on the red carpet being asked about working with Meghan. His response was a masterclass in subject changing. Within seconds, he had pivoted entirely to talking about Brie Larson and Lily Collins with an energy that suggested he was very eager to be done with that particular question. Whatever the reason, NDAs, on-set friction, not wanting to say something he'd regret, the discomfort was visible, and discomfort at that level doesn't come from nothing. We've heard stories like this before, across multiple contexts, with multiple sources. The Suits days in Canada, where Meghan was reportedly the only cast member who insisted on a hotel room and a car for a photo shoot that was a couple of doors down. Royal tours where staff were found in tears. The consistent expectation of five-star treatment, full entourage, car across the street. The pattern is too consistent, across too many different situations and sources, to dismiss. So where does all of this leave us? Australia is not going to be the warm embrace they're hoping for. The crowds won't look like 8 years ago. The petition represents a genuine shift in public sentiment, not a fringe minority, and responding to it rather than ignoring it has made everything worse. The retreat is questionable at best. The UK brand expansion looks like panic or miscalculation, or both. And the body language tells a story that no spokesperson can spin. Meanwhile, William and Catherine keep doing what they do. Show up, do the work, look good doing it. Build genuine public trust, quietly and consistently, without the memoir, without the documentary, without relitigating every grievance on global television. The decision-making pattern from Harry and Meghan is worth naming clearly because it's so consistent. They know their Australian popularity has declined. They know the petition exists. They go anyway. They charge $3,000 for the retreat. They publicly respond when the petition hits 35,000 signatures. At every single decision point, the option that makes things worse is the one that gets made. And this isn't new. It's the memoir, the Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the response to critics instead of rising above them, the return to Australia without understanding how the ground has shifted. Some of that is yes people, advisors who've stopped delivering uncomfortable truths because the cost of honesty is too high. But I think there's something deeper. A genuine inability to accept that not everyone sees them the way they see themselves. They talk about privacy and sign Netflix deals. They talk about being silenced and give extensive media interviews. They talk about stepping back from royal life and file trademarks on royal-adjacent products. The contradictions are so baked in that I'm not sure they register them anymore. And then there's Harry specifically. Because the Jordan footage isn't just tabloid material, it's genuinely sad. Well-sourced reports from serious publications describe him as deeply unhappy in Montecito. Miserable, missing England, missing his family, missing the sense of purpose that came with being a working royal. The evasion of her touch in those clips isn't just a sign of marital tension. It looks like a man in the early stages of recognizing that the life he has is not the life he thought he was choosing. That what he gave up was more than he understood. That what he gained is less than he was promised. I don't think Harry is a bad person. I think he made enormous, irreversible decisions under the influence of someone very persuasive, and he is now living with the full weight of those consequences. You can't unpublish a memoir. You can't take back what was said about his family on global television. The damage is done. And even if Charles, who I believe has more warmth toward Harry than Harry perhaps deserves right now, were willing to try, William isn't there yet. Without William, genuine reconciliation isn't possible. So Harry does Invictus, and the Invictus Games do genuinely important work. Veterans benefit, real lives are changed, and he deserves full credit for that. But Invictus has also started to look like something else. A way of maintaining a connection to the UK, to the military world, to the life he came from. A way of keeping a foot in a door he's terrified might close forever. And that, to me, is the saddest part of this entire story. Not the failed projects, not the brand disasters, not the retreat. It's a man who walked away from everything convinced he was running towards something better, who is now standing in Montecito wondering if he made the worst mistake of his life. The contrast with William and Catherine isn't really about style or good hats or who handled a cold day more gracefully. It's about two people who chose the institution, who accepted the constraints and the responsibilities, who showed up and did the work day after day and built something real as a result. A partnership, a family, a sense of purpose. All the things, ironically, that Harry said he was leaving to find. That's the real story. And no trademark filing, no Australian retreat, no Amazon film, no press release is going to change it. If this is the kind of storytelling you come here for, hit the like button. It helps this channel more than most people realize. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this with someone who'd find it interesting, and leave a comment telling me, do you think Harry ever finds his way back? I'll see you next time.